welcome to UConomy, Macro Made Micro. I'm Thomas Fox, the Community Outreach Director of Cambridge Credit Counseling, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Nunzio Bruno.
Yeah, I'm Nunzio Bruno. I run Financially Digital, which is a small business coaching and personal finance consulting firm, as well as adjunct professor of business at Baypath.
You know, this is our first show, and our goal with this entire program is to empower you by taking these very large economic issues and finance issues and really boiling them down to usable steps that you can put to use right now. And that's kind of the goal with the first program. We have a lofty agenda. We're going to talk about the debt ceiling.
Right.
We're actually going to have Leslie McFadden from Bankrate.com. She's going to be on the show talking about changes to credit scores. And we're also going to be talking about how you can become financially digital, which we'll get into it in a little while. The first thing I want to talk about with our economic guru over here is the debt ceiling. What does that mean to us? I mean, we hear a lot about it, and there's been back and forth and positioning and so on. But overall, what does that mean to business owners? If you're a small business owner, what does all that mean? How does it impact?
Well, I think the biggest piece of information that we have right now that will affect business owners is that rating that they keep talking about. When you hear that the U.S.'s credit rating, essentially, by Standard & Poor's goes from that AAA down to whatever it might go down to, it really affects not only consumer confidence and sentiment, but the interest payments that the U.S. pays on money that it borrows. And that money goes from everywhere from government programs like education, national parks, healthcare, roads and services. So anything right now, even government jobs, so jobs at the State House or community programs that we have here in Springfield. What that AAA rating means is if that decreases, the U.S. will have to pay higher interest payments, which reduces the amount of money that can go into the programs that I just described.
And that's interesting. When we look at a AAA rating, we can correlate it to credit scores, and that's actually what we're going to be talking about a little bit more as we go on. But it stands to reason that if my credit score decreases, I'm going to get charged more for the privilege of borrowing someone else's money.
Right.
And just to put this in comparison, I was watching something today, and it talked about the difference between, they use Greece as a template. Now, obviously, there's a lot of turmoil over in Greece, but Greece is borrowing money now at 30% interest. America, we borrow money at 3% interest.
Right.
And that's a huge disparity, but we see the challenges going on in other countries, and could we wind up there? I don't know if that's going to be the case, but even if we start to pay a little bit more money for the privilege of borrowing money right now, that's going to hurt the small business owner. You're going to have to pay more when you borrow money. I mean, honestly, you really have nothing to do but to pass those costs on to your customers,
right,
who are already, obviously struggling.
And that swirls around worries of inflation and, whether the Federal Reserve decides to, influx the market with capital. This rating trickles down. So if the Federal Reserve it costs them to borrow more from the government, then it'll cost banks to borrow more from the Fed, and it'll cost you as a business owner or even an individual more to borrow from banks. So that cost of capital is just going to increase overall.
Indeed, and you know what? This is a subject that you should follow, and we're going to tell you how you can do that in our when we explain how you can become financially digital. But first, we're going to have a very nice interview, I think, with Leslie McFadden of Bankrate.com.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. All right, well, welcome to our interview segment of UConomy, and today we're lucky enough to have Leslie McFadden from Bankrate.com, which is a fantastic website. I encourage anybody out there who has any kind of personal finance issues that they're trying to expand their knowledge on, go over to Bankrate.com. There's top-notch columnists and a lot of really good credit people. But let's hear Leslie tell us a little bit about it. Leslie, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
I'm the credit card columnist for Bankrate.com, and I'm also an associate editor covering credit cards, credit scores, and insurance.
Well, with the change in the economy over the last couple of years, I'm sure you folks have been pretty busy keeping up with all the changes that are going on. And
definitely.
Well, in the world of credit, I understand too. It's crazy out there. And, with so many things rapidly changing, we had the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that is coming online, and a lot of other good things. One thing that interesting that we're looking at recently is there's going to be some changes to credit scores and the way that people are able to kind of use this information if it affects them adversely. And we can get into that in a couple of seconds, and that's the changes that's going to happen on July 21st. But just a background on credit scores. What is the importance of your credit score? We hear this number a lot, but what does it really mean to us?
Well, the main use for them is, getting approved for loans and credit cards and getting the best interest rate on loans and credit cards.
And for our viewers, how does it really work? How does the review of how does a credit score come about? Is there a range to it? How does it really impact them? How does that work?
Sure. Well, there are many different scoring models out there. The one you'll hear about most often is called a FICO score, and that ranges from 300 to 850. And your score is pulled, when you apply for credit or when an existing creditor is doing an account review. That's when your score is going to come up.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about who reviews those scores?
So these are going to be creditors like banks, credit unions, finance companies, anybody who extends credit. So every time you apply for credit, your score is going to be checked. And as I mentioned, existing creditors do this also during account reviews.
Now, also too, the credit score is kind of used now to assess your fiscal responsibility. And we've seen a lot of landlords now looking at credit scores, employers even looking at credit scores. So now that number seems to be picking up in wow, I really got to pay attention to this.
Well, now employers don't look at credit scores. What they sometimes look at is credit reports, which is a different thing. So employers are not seeing your credit score, but they can look at your credit report.
Can you tell us a little bit about what goes into a credit report, or what is a credit report?
Well, so the score is based on what's in your credit report. Your credit report will contain things like your payment history. It'll show how much you're charging on your credit cards. It'll show new credit inquiries. So every time you apply for credit, that'll show a new inquiry on your credit report. And it'll give, information about your accounts that will affect your score, like the length of your credit history. It'll also show public records like bankruptcies and liens. Those will be on there too, if applicable.
And people should review these reports regularly. I was at a NeighborWorks training recently, and one of the instructors said that they had communication with one of the credit reporting agencies, and they said that almost 85% or more of credit reports have some type of error on it. So they recommend highly to pull a copy of the report every year, take a look at it, make sure everything is accurate. Because again, all this information when it comes to your credit score is distilled. And if landlords are looking at your credit score, and if employers are looking at your credit report, really want to make sure it's in the best shape. And that's kind of where these changes are coming into play a little bit with July 21st. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Dodd-Frank reform has kind of put in place in regards to credit scores when when you're turned down for credit or you're adversely affected?
Right. So basically, after July 21st, some people, after they apply for credit, will be seeing their credit score free of charge. And that's if you are turned down for credit, you're going to see your credit score, or if you are risk-based price, meaning you get offered worse terms than other consumers based on your credit score. So if you're given a higher interest rate than other consumers, you're going to be getting your credit score for free. And
that's excellent, because I know people that I work with in my field. A lot of them, years ago, this credit score was this mystical creature. It was this yeti. Oh, it's this credit score. But now you finally can get a chance to look at that and really understand and kind of get a sense of where you stand financially. So I think that's great. But there's going to be some other changes too, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, Leslie, do you think you could give us a little more information about what people are actually going to receive when they get their credit score?
Absolutely. So it's not just going to be this credit score itself. You're going to see the range of possible scores, so you're going to know where you fall in that range. You're also going to get several factors that show you why your score wasn't higher. So that's going to be very helpful. And you're also going to get the name of the credit reporting agency that supplied the data. So you're going to get some context for that score that you're seeing.
And now it's important. That's a great point to bring up. You're going to see it from that credit reporting agency. But how many credit reporting agencies are there actually?
Well, there's three major ones, right? So there's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Unfortunately, you're not necessarily going to be told which brand of score you're seeing. So it's not going to say, for instance, a FICO score. But you will see that range and you will see those factors, and I think that's what's important to focus on.
Oh, indeed. I mean, once you see where you stand, and it's great information that they're going to kind of give you with it as well, is a great starting point, at least from our perspective, that you can begin this plan and say, okay, wow, I can really work to rehabilitate my credit, get myself in good shape, and you know, when I'm looking to build wealth and take on these new financing responsibilities, I can do so in a manner that's going to help me out.
Right, and I should emphasize that you're going to be seeing the score that was actually used in the decision. So it's not just a score. It's not some irrelevant score. It's the score that the lender was actually basing the decision on.
And all the supporting data is going to really come with that to kind of say, all right, listen, this is where you're at. You know, I don't know if we, you know, we were going to talk about Credit Karma a little later in a different segment, but if this score, would you say, I know Credit Karma is close, not 100%, but is this type of score is going to be more indicative of what the consumer is facing at that?
Well, like I said, this is going to be the score used, whether that's a FICO score or a Vantage score. You know, this is going to be the most relevant score for the situation.
It'll give people a starting place to go to either take proactive steps at fixing it, or at least a spot to go for trying to argue better interest rates or better terms.
You know, again, you know, we're very fortunate to have Leslie on. She's busy. She's in New York, sweating because it's hot all over the country here right now. But Leslie, if people wanted to learn a little bit more about the changes to the credit scores, I'm sure Bankrate has some fantastic articles speaking about it. Is it correct?
Definitely. We just published an article about the rules that goes into even more detail about those rules on our website right now. And of course, if you have any more questions, go to my column and send me a question, and I may answer it in a future column.
Well, I might be sending you some questions.
I know I'm already following you on Twitter, so we'll be sure to, when this episode goes live, we'll be tweeting about it and make sure that people can find you on Twitter and get some more of this fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Listen, again, thank you very much for coming on the show. We're really happy to have you again. Leslie McFadden from Bankrate.com.
Yeah, thanks again.
Please be sure to visit it when you get a chance and learn about all these changes.
Yeah, stop by and tell her hi.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, you know, I learned a lot in that interview, and, you know, especially with some of the challenges that people are facing getting turned down for credit and really what that means. But that's, I think, the important part. And when we said Financially Digital when we opened, it wasn't just a plug for his website, although you can visit, you know, financiallydigital.com. But really, it's about what you're doing right now. You're using the internet to learn about finance, and there's many great resources to do that.
Yeah.
You know, Bankrate.com.
Oh, wow, jinx.
See,
now you owe me a Coke.
But there you go. But there's great places like Bankrate.com, you know, Yahoo Finance. I mean,
huge redesign.
What are some of the places that you read? I mean, I have to read all the time. I mean, this is our career.
So with personal finance in mind specifically, I'm a huge fan of Morningstar.com, Reuters, Yahoo Finance, even CNN Money has some really great digestible, easy-to-read articles. And that was in no way, shape, or form a plug, just sources of some really good information.
No, I mean, we're credit professionals. I mean, you know, part of the thing, I mean, obviously, you know, with what we use for research is a lot different, but on the same token, you can use these same tools. RSS feeds, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Really simple syndication. You can set up something like Google Reader. And for example, let's say your child is going to college next year. Maybe you can set up something on, go to a Google Reader or something like that, set up an RSS feed and set up something about saving for college or life away at college or something like that. And any time an article is posted anywhere on the internet, it'll get delivered to you. You don't even have to search it out. And how awesome is that? You wake up in the morning, subjects that you want to learn about automatically delivered to you.
Right, and the biggest pull away for us here with regards to that is information in the credit industry is constantly changing. And I hope you guys were able to pull that away from Leslie's interview that we had here. Because any changes in the laws or the way credit's handled could really, it will affect you, but to help you be proactive about those changes. So one of my favorite parts of these changes coming the 21st are the detailed report that you're going to get in the event that you don't get the terms that you thought you were going to get or a rejection, because it'll give you those actionable next steps. What do you have to do to try to rectify that, or how can you try to work your credit more efficiently to get the rates that you want and the credit lines that you want, or the mortgage.
Absolutely. I know your background as a financial planner and you know, with the work that I do with Cambridge Credit, we all know one thing. you can't go anywhere unless you know where you're starting from. And yes, you can get your credit score, and you can look at the number, and it could just make you crazy. But getting this background information about how that's how your score is impacted by your current situation helps you to make that plan.
Yep.
And that's a great thing about it. You can visit resources like bankrate.com that talks about this subject. Cambridge Credit has a YouTube page that talks. We actually have a show, Your Money 2.0. We talk about this subject as well. And I know on Financially Digital, there's other supporting documentation in other places. But again, Google personal finance. Become familiar with financial bloggers. There's tons of financial bloggers out there. I mean, you're part of a fantastic network.
Yep. That's true. The Ukizi, they do great work as far as personal finance and small business blogging. All really smart people. And you should, along with just reading, you should be getting active about it. So how would you pull up a credit? Is there one place you can go to freely get your credit score?
Oh, indeed. You can, well, you can go get your credit score, but you can get it from creditkarma.com. You have to sign up for it. You'll get about 8 million internet ads for signing up for credit cards, but you kind of can blow all those away and really just take a look at the score. And what's really good about it is it does the same thing that's happening on the 21st. When you look at that score, it's going to tell you how you can, get your credit in better shape and empower it for the future.
Yep.
And there's other great, but that's not going to be one of your scores. And again, you should take a look at everything. My recommendation as well is to visit annualcreditreport.com. There you can get copies of all your credit reports. And if I had my choice between credit reports and credit scores, I like the reports because that will tell me everything that's going on.
And that about wraps us up.
That about wraps it up. Indeed. Listen, thank you very much for tuning into our first show. We hope we haven't scared you away, and that you'll come back for the second show because we need the money. No,
I'm pretty sure.
All right, listen, thank you very much for tuning into Uconomy, and we'll see you next time.